Who said you can't teach an old dog new tricks? Hi, I'm Gail Rubenstein, the founder and CEO of a company called Retail Resilient, social selling for the car industry. And we help auto dealers, auto agencies, and vendors in the auto industry sell more cars, service more cars, and make more money using our social selling strategy. That includes TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and anything else you can think of. So if you're looking to invest thousands and make millions, we're definitely the social selling company for you. Like I said, who said you can't teach an old dog new tricks?
If you run a service drive, you know these days first impressions matter. But when your advisors are tied up with inbound phone calls, they tend to neglect their other, more important duties. And did you know 75% of all service calls are frequently asked questions and routine requests? Still, the average dealer misses up to 30% of inbound calls, adding up to a ton of missed service opportunity and increased customer churn. 68% of callers actually go elsewhere if they can't get through, which means you could be losing $60,000 to $70,000 every month in service revenue simply from missing calls. So who will pick up? Introducing Brooke.
Hi there.
Your best service scheduling assistant. Brooke is the first intelligent digital voice assistant to answer, handle, and appoint all of your inbound service calls. Hiring Brooke means absolutely no call goes unanswered, boosting your customer satisfaction and reducing your overhead costs. And talking to Brooke is like talking to a friend with human-level understanding in a friendly conversational voice. Her conversational intelligence is built on millions of actual service industry conversations, making her the easiest onboard you'll ever have. She can handle any volume of calls and follows your policies every step of the way, 24/7. That means even when the lights are off, Brooke is always on.
And I can do it without missing a beat.
You really do check all the boxes. Book with Brooke today. Visit Brooke.ai or call 866-942-1236. Finally, the perfect match.
See that light above the bathroom door over there? That's a big time saver for our technicians and other recon staff. The light goes on when the bathroom is occupied. Now techs keep working until the light goes out. Then they know for sure the room is empty. And when they're busy there, they're also catching up on the news. Not bad news, but news they need for the job. I post these where they can't be missed. Too often, the search for the right product burns valuable time. This inexpensive detailer's cart organizes supplies. Now techs lay their hands on what they need without delay. We got these time savers from Rapid Recon, the reconditioning software company that's always defining better reconditioning solutions for dealerships like yours. When the goal is to get cars through recon in 72 hours or less, every step, every minute, every better decision made helps towards that goal. For more recon efficiency ideas like these, talk to the recon experts at rapidrecon.com.
Good morning. So a few book recommendations. The New Rules of Retail, The Retail Revival, and Biology, Truth and Lies About Why We Buy. So there's a few there. Go ahead, Jeff.
Good morning, everybody, and we're getting started finally. We do love our sponsors, and we give them a chance to get their word out there. And I must admit, I love the lady's comment about the light above the restroom, but we'll just sort of leave that one go. So otherwise, I'd have to utilize our disclaimer, and which is the views and opinions of those on the guesting on the Auto Hub show are those of themselves and not necessarily of ours. And please read our disclosure statement on our website for more detail. Ian.
The best technology to invest in, Auto Hub Show podcast. Let's get into it. Moving over.
Joining us today, we have a whole bunch of people. I'm very, very pleased and impressed to have some very deep people involved here, and deep in knowledge and deep otherwise, I'm sure. But first of all, who's not first, but just because I'm looking right at him, is Alan Kurich, who's the Director of OEM and Industry Relations for Fuse Autotech, and what it says on LinkedIn is Bozeman, Montana, which may reach the smallest city. We've had anybody join us. Alan, please take a moment, introduce yourself, tell us briefly about Fuse Autotech.
Thank you, Jeff. Yeah, Bozeman, Montana. It's 50,000 people. It's in the Rocky Mountains near a bunch of ski areas and rivers. And Fuse Autotech makes transactional software for auto dealers. Our goal is to make financing a car simple. The easiest way to think about us is we are a point of sale system for a dealership.
Very much for joining us. Next, we have Noah John from AutoScores, who's the CEO and founder of AutoScores, formerly of Maine, the home of subpar lobster compared to Nova Scotia stuff. But he's based in Orlando, Florida. Noah, could you tell us a bit about yourself, AutoScores, and thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. And I love Maine, but I don't miss shoveling the snow. That's for sure. So AutoScores helps inventory managers on the pre-owned side manage inventory better and faster. We do that by offloading a lot of the tedious hard work that an inventory manager shouldn't be doing onto a machine so that they can focus on what they're really good at. And we also specialize in looking at the leading sales indicators instead of the trailing sales indicators. If you want to learn more, you can hit me up on LinkedIn or check out our website at autoscores.com.
Great, thank you very much. Interesting point to see what's going on before rather than what happened. Next, we have Carol Marshall, who's the COO of Active Engage, another Floridian. I'm getting a little concerned here. Everybody seems to be going.
Yeah, represent.
Yes, we all moved to Florida, everyone.
Yeah, but then the continent would tip over, you know.
Right.
Carol, could you tell us a bit about yourself at Active Engage, and thank you for joining us.
Sure, my pleasure. I have been in the automotive industry over 25 years, started in a dealership and been with Active Engage over 13 years. And Active Engage is the leading messaging provider in the industry. We provide software. We have our own development, our own software team. So whether we manage the conversations or our clients manage them, it matters not. Most of our clients choose to have us. We believe that it's all about the people. It's all about that first impression and a real engaging conversation from wherever that consumer is. And super happy. We recently announced our exclusive partnership with Fox. And so that's kept us just a little bit busy recently. So.
Great, congratulations and thanks again. Next, we have James Hamilton, Senior Account Executive of Upstart Auto Retail from Vancouver Light to Seattle, Washington. James, can you say hi? Tell us a bit about yourself and your company.
Hey, how are you doing? How's everyone this morning? Upstart, full spectrum AI lending platform that purchased Prodigy software last year. And we deploy now our financing through our digital retail tool that we purchased from Prodigy. We have lots of things going on. It's been crazy month last month as well. So
Great, yeah. There's a new saying: if you can't beat them, buy them.
yeah, I guess that's true.
We're moving to Florida.
Yeah, and moving to Florida. It's a little drier. Next, we have with us Brooke Furness, who's the founder and CEO of BZ Consultants, the Canadian term is BZ, from Chicago. Brooke, say hi. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Hello. Yes, I am from Chicago, and yeah, CEO, like you said, CEO founder of BZ Consultants. Pretty much our whole goal is to differentiate facts from feelings, which is the name of my podcast as well. And we just help dealers, one, free up their time. Anyone that's been in a dealership knows you get about 200 to 300 emails a day. You're in meetings all day long. And so we're just there to help inspect what they should be expecting and to take the burden off them as they work with both vendors and business partners, because there's a big difference. And so just help ease that burden and help them inspect what they should be expecting. And thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for being here very much. Next, we have Troy Glenn, who is the person looking up there, all things CDK up here in Western Canada. joining us from very close to us, Surrey, British Columbia. Troy, say hi and quick introduction, although you don't need any to our fans.
Well, thank you very much. So Troy Glenn from CDK Global. I'm the team leader for Western Canada. And just for what everyone knows where our company is, but for what it's worth, Jeff, that whole if you can't build it, buy it, I've never heard of that in my life. And I don't know where you got it from, but I'd like to learn more about it.
Well, wait a minute. Somebody just get bought?
Well, yeah, it's all good stuff, but yeah, it happens, right?
Terrific. I think I've caught everybody. We have a very large crowd live today. I do want to recognize our regulars here, Tim Nilsson, Larry Feldman, and Stephen Granger, Retail Rabbit, sporting a heck of a goatee there, man. You're looking super duper. Ian, go ahead with the first question, please.
Yeah, without too much promoting your product specifically, we do have show sponsors available for that. What is the best tech dealers must be invested in today? And let's start with Carol.
Wow. Okay. So my answer is a very non-technical answer.
That's okay.
But I'll give you a very quick story. So my 21-year-old daughter, I convinced to buy a newer car to save herself on repairs. She did so 6 months ago. 2019, ran out of warranty. 3 weeks later, the AC stopped working. We took it into a dealership, grateful they could get us in to diagnose. She has no AC, and yes, we were in beautiful sunny Florida. So 4 hours later of waiting at the dealership, and again, I'm grateful we even got in to get it diagnosed. We get this really cool video texted to us. You know, this is so-and-so service, master technician, under the vehicle, under the hood, this checks out, everything looks good. It was, as someone in the industry, I was like, my God, that video is so cool. That's really awesome. The next moment, my beautiful 21-year-old let loose a string of explicitives, F-bombing all the way, because she just waited 4 hours to find out what's wrong with her air conditioner. To hear someone say, everything checks out, it looks good, were not the words that she was hoping to hear. So my answer would be the best technology is the technology that helps your consumer. Start with the consumer experience. What is it that you are hoping to gain in that consumer experience? And then what technology can your team not just accept, but thoroughly understand how to use and what that end goal is? It's all about how are you training? How are you rolling it out? What is the acceptance of it, the adoption of it? So, I settled her down all as well, but that was a real eye-opening for me too, because as someone in the industry, I was like, wow, that's really cool. I love it. But from a consumer perspective, wow, she was set on fire. So the best technology is whatever cures an ail for your consumer and one that your team can adopt and really understand.
So maybe someone should train the technician about what to focus on in the video.
Right. Did they not know my AC doesn't work? Like she was, wow. I was like, honey, it's okay. Just wait. Wow. So.
Alan, what do you think?
I'm going to, say that Carol's got this right. And I'm going to talk not about technology first and say that culture and process are still more important than technology. If you have a culture that's welcoming, that's a winning culture, if you have processes that get the work done, technology can accelerate that. But every single dealer in North America, in behind their dealership, has a graveyard full of technology and widgets they bought that they could not put into their system because they didn't have process. So I'm going to give you the characteristics that I think are important for technology right now. I'm going to tell you about the problems it should solve. First of all, this is what I believe customers want. They want price and payment transparency. So, we've been playing cat and mouse with the price in this industry forever. And the current environment, this makes no sense. We can go to Amazon, we can go to insurance companies. People are used to this transparency. So the technology has to give us that transparency. People want respect for their time. Now, I think most people would think about this as speed, but it's really go slow, go fast. Meaning, when I'm in a store making the decision to spend $50,000, I may want you to slow it down a little bit and not rush me. Once I say, yes, I want you to go at lightning speed, customers are still asking, I've been on the internet for 12 hours. I test drove the car. I said, yes. Why does it take 3 hours for me to give you my money? It defies reason. And then the last thing is customers want control in the process. They want the ability not just to have everything dictated to them. And I'll use an analogy here. If we're driving on a mountain road, if I'm sitting in the passenger seat, there's anxiety if I look over the cliff. If I have my hands on the wheel, I'm starting to feel a little better. Keep in mind, spending $50,000 can produce anxiety for customers. Most of us don't get a lot of practice spending $50,000. So I think these are the problems to solve that technology can be deployed. Is transparency, respect for time, and some control of the process.
Thanks for that. James?
You know what? I can kind of dovetail off of Carol and Alan there with saying that I think that having a seamless process at the store from online customer to in-store is really key. And what I mean by that is that in the environment we're in now with the inventory shortage and how pricing is being handled or handled right or not right, depends on who you are, is that in-store experience. I just think that having a strategy and technology for that in-store experience is really an important thing that everyone needs to work on.
Cool. Noah?
Well, I think so. I like to say a lot has changed in the automotive industry since the 90s. Like, if you think about how people were selling vehicles in the 90s and before, it was a much simpler process. Once we added websites to the equation, even in their primitive form, things have only gotten more complex. And the reality is, any product and service that you can retail, you need to be able to retail digitally. And for me, the investment is there are plenty of great technologies out there. What's really lacking in a dealership, and it's a hard truth to face, is there's a lack of knowledge of how to find technology that fits for your business and how to properly integrate it, and also make the decision if I want to be better off doing that work myself. So there needs to be an acceptance that you need to start bringing digital minds into your dealership so they can help you vet vendors better. They can help you identify what technology is going to work with the processes that you have in place. But at the end of the day, once your car can be seen by anyone in the world because it's on a website compared to in the 90s and before when it was the people in your town, suddenly what you have to deal with in terms of the number of people looking at your inventory, how you respond to those leads, how you scale all that, you have to make tough decisions about what work you want to offload to some sort of automated process or vendor, or what work needs to be done by the skilled people at the dealership. So for me, invest in the people that have the knowledge to help you, whether it's a trusted third partner or hiring someone or a team in-house to help guide you.
Great thoughts. Brooke?
So everything that's been said, I'm just going to say ditto to all of it. There's not a lot that I'm going to say that hasn't already been said at this point. That the notes I've made here, I'm like, check, they've said that, check, they've said that. With all the technology that's out there, it really comes down to people and process. Like everyone has just said here, is that as great as technology is, it means absolutely nothing is if at the top, no one believes in it. So if you have, I don't care if it's in our industry or another industry, if the owner doesn't believe in it, your GM doesn't believe in it, and that filters on down. If no one else believes in it, it means absolutely nothing. We all know that whether, like Alan said, there's a graveyard of systems and tools, or, hey, I was at a 20 group. How many times we heard, I was at a 20 group, this is the best thing ever. Really? No, it's not. And even if it is, it doesn't mean crap if you're not going to use it and if it's not implemented correctly. And even if it's the greatest chat tool versus the greatest DR tool, what's the process before you ever slap that button on your website? You've got to think backwards. What's the process? And meeting the customer exactly where they are at the right time, with the right message, and at the right everything. What's your process? Because as soon as you implement all that, there is a domino ripple effect of what is going to happen. So take a step back and figure out, okay, what will happen? Who, if it's from a sales point, do I have enough internal people and enough training and all of that to handle everything that's going to come down the pike? If it's from a service standpoint, do I have everything in line? And do I have, once again, going back to training, have I properly trained all of my employees to handle this? Going back to Carol, they weren't properly trained. Video is so insanely important, but how many times have we all walked into a business and said, great, fantastic. How is your X video platform working? Oh, it's great. Oh, really? You haven't sent out a video once. Why are you paying for a tool that will increase everything, but you refuse to use it? Why even have it? You have all these wonderful things. We can going back to, I think, Noah, you were saying that in the 90s, we had Rolodex. We didn't have any of these tools, but are we really making any more sense? I mean, there's all these things we have at our fingertips, but if we're not going to use them, what is the point of even having them? You know, once again, just the greatest technology will fall on its face if we're not there from a profit standpoint, from a people standpoint. So you really need to invest in the people and streamlining all of these tools. And the other problem is that nothing talks to itself, to each other. That's a whole probably show in itself, but nothing talks to each other. So that's a massive issue in itself. So going back to what every single person on this panel said this far is people and process and streamlining it so we can meet the customer, whether that's in the virtual world, whether that's on I hate using the word digital retailing tool or whatever you want to dub it because it's a freaking buzzword, but meeting them wherever they are. So whether that's on the showroom floor, whether that's, hey, we're in the metaverse, whether that's wherever they may be, if it's you're sitting on a mailer because that's their demographic, whatever that may be, but it's just meeting the customer exactly where they are and then streamlining the process.
Thanks for that. Troy?
Again, it's all ditto for everything on there. I would say that training on the technology you've already invested tons and tons of money in is huge. Respect to the trainers that are on this call, because whenever they walk into a dealership and they acknowledge that there's processes and there's tools and they work really hard to connect them, I think that getting what you've already invested out of is huge. If I had to come up with an answer of what kind of technology needs to be invested in, again, I said this, I think, on the last one, there's a lack of inventory, but there's no lack of cars coming in for service. So anything that's going to make that more profitable, speedy, better for the customer experience, I think that's what I would invest.
Fantastic. Jeff?
Points, very good points there. And when we watched our opening video, the people from McKinsey and Company, they're way bigger than I thought they were. I knew they were big. Talking about all these things and the automated delivery and et cetera. And people may have, I loved watching the grocery cart go down the aisle with the robot hand pushing it and the other robot hand putting things in it. But one of the big things in our industry that comes up, and everybody likes to talk about it and frankly complain about, is they bring up the new online automotive retailers. And we aren't going to mention their name because we don't want to promote them, do we? Do these companies do tech better than dealers? Because of course they call themselves tech companies, but if they do, is there something that dealers can do that on their part to mimic what they do? And I'm going to go to Noah about that.
So, in my opinion, they do, and it shouldn't be a surprise to anyone that that they do tech better because they're tech companies, and that's the skill set that they have. That's probably the skill set they have at the highest level, and it's certainly the skill set of a majority of their team. They're dedicating way more time, way more payroll to software engineers, data analysts, people that are from the tech sector. And what they lack, and what the dealership has, is the in the trenches, decades and decades of buying and selling cars to people. And to me, it's a matter of each of them has their strengths. And to what people have said already on this panel, there's a certain expectation, whether the dealers like it or not, whether any business likes it or not, there's a certain expectation because we're not competing with other dealerships as retailers, we're competing with other retail experiences. So whether it's going into the Apple store to buy a product in store or online, or that transition from buying the phone online, being told to pick it up at this location and what that experience like, everyone's going to compare you to the best experience they have. Whether that's fair or not, that's what the consumer is going to do. And right now, there's no doubt with Amazon, leading the way early on through this, there's an expectation for this sort of concierge type service that includes, whether we like to use the term or not, a digital retailing experience that's up to snuff. And that requires tech expertise. And the good news is, this is not an unsolvable problem. It's been solved for a long time, which means there are tools and services and companies out there that have already have experience doing this that can be utilized by dealers. As I said earlier, the issue is, while the dealers have the in the trenches experience, they're going to struggle with, okay, how do I pick the right person or organization or team to work with? And that's where the challenge is. But, and I don't want to take all the time because it's an interesting subject, but I think my answer is yes, those guys are doing it better, but there's a trade-off because what they lack is that in the trench experience. So what I'm hoping is that the progressive dealers are open-minded enough to look outside their industry a little bit for help, because I know automotive is so unique, and I know that better than anyone, right? You take a GM, you put them in another business, they'll do fine. Take someone out of another dealership and put them in a GM role, they're probably going to be sweating bullets by 7 a.m. because of all the stuff that they just entered in their email, let alone the service people knocking on their door and stuff. So it's a question of embracing, finding help, and hopefully being able to find partners that you can trust that can help lead you in those areas that you might not be comfortable with early on.
A very good point. Thank you. I actually saw some on LinkedIn yesterday that there's somebody trying to organize dealers to not provide service to customers that bought their cars from those retailers. And the first thing that I thought I'd go is, why? James, I'll hit you with the same question. It sounds like these people, being tech companies, do tech better, but what can dealers do to bring that things at their level, their business up to that kind of level?
Well, I think that he's right. Noah's right that they do tech better, but the tools that are available to dealers can help compete with that. It's just that the dealers have not embraced all the tools that are available to them, and so they just sit there and complain that, hey, they're this so and so and so and so stealing my customers, stealing the cars at the auction, and instead of embracing what's going on in front of them. And most of the tools that are out there for these consumers right now, for the dealers, are based on prime buyers. So they're talking to 35-40% of the consumers out there, where the other online retailers are talking to everyone. They have not put themselves in buckets because all of them sell used vehicles. So the dealers could do the same exact thing. They just have to embrace the technology that's available.
Very much. Up here, one of our retailers right down there, they're actually a lead provider. They've been selling leads for 10 years to dealers. So it's interesting how they combine that with their business. Brooke.
Yeah, it's a great question that you posed there. A couple of thoughts on it is, if you look at the companies out there, and as we said, we all know who they are. If anyone has looked at the stats, and unfortunately I don't have them pulled up right now, is that if you're a consumer that is wanting to do business with them, it is not done all online. Now, what is that they present is that it's done all online, is that you don't have to call them, you're not going to have to interact. That is all BS. Is that you actually have to call them. I want to say the status, and then don't quote me on this, it's like 10.2 times you have to interact with a human being. Now, dealers know that, or they should know that. And once again, don't quote me on that. I hope that's the right stat, and hope I'm not spreading lies and propaganda right now. But it's something along that is that more or less the bottom line is here, you have to interact with the customer. So their marketing is incredible. Their marketing is great. We've all seen the commercials, and we as dealers, we hate the commercials because what do? They smear our good name. So there's that portion of it. Then you look at it even further, and what is the technology portion is very, very good. Once again, we go back to my prior statement, is everything also talks to each other. You're able to say, okay, this talks, you look at the trades, everything is talking to each other. You go onto a regular website, your trades this, we've got, this is not going to cross too many bridges on this. You get on a regular website now, you've got an OEM DR tool, you've got this other DR tool, you've got 3 different DR tools. Which one's actually telling what buys? The dealer can't see a lot of different things. So you have all these different tools on the site with like 15 call to action buttons. So it's a very clunky user experience. And even the best of dealerships, it's not the same experience as there. We'll take it one step further at these other companies. It's they claim it's seamless on the experience side of it. It looks great, it feels great. They want that experience. And they go back to when they try to do the customer experience, who has the better customer experience? When it comes right down to it, the dealership is going to, because they're local, the follow is going to be there, the service is going to be there. But how many dealerships are actually pushing that message? I'm not sure how many are capitalizing on, hey, this is what we do. I've worked at a couple of dealerships and I'm like, hey, if you guys are, especially if you're a Metro dealership, are you even looking at, hey, should we be buying these certain terms? Should we be doing this? Because you can turn the tables, because what they're preaching is this, when in reality this is actually what they're doing. So yes, the technology is there, but from the customer experience, their customers experience, if you look at some of the metrics on what the aftermath is once what the vehicle is purchased or bought and what they're doing. So customer experience is always going to be better from the dealership land, but the technology is by far, as Noah said, the trade-off is the customer experience is absolutely atrocious from the other side, we'll call them.
It's interesting how the pandemic, the timing was so good, because there were people for months, even, most places I know, dealers were closed no more than 2 months when the pandemic hit. But for the year following, there are people that are saying, oh, I'm not going to go in, I'm going to buy the cars there. And, all I can say is thank whomever that they offer a free pickup service too, because there was a lot of that. Carol, your opinion on this?
Yeah, it's interesting. The pandemic was, we saw very different conversations and continue to. I will tell you, a lot of people in especially like the New York area, where so many people have relied on ride sharing, and those dealers were shut down pretty quick. We saw a lot of conversations on the websites asking about dealers in nearby areas. Will they deliver? Can I still buy from my dealer who's local but shut down? So I think I agree with Brooke 100%. The marketing that these companies are doing, so spot on, quick, easy. I don't have to talk to anybody. The marketing's great initially, except that if you're seriously looking to buy a vehicle, and I would tell you, especially for the younger people who initially the idea of not having to talk to someone might appeal to, once they start in the process of actually buying a vehicle, they want to touch, feel, drive the vehicle. They do want that interaction. So the marketing's great, not 100% true. And in my opinion, where these companies fall down, because Noah's right, people are comparing to every shopping experience, but buying a vehicle is so complex and there's so many different options and choices to make all along the way. If you go on any of these companies' websites and try to engage in a real conversation, does this have a sunroof? How much of the warranty is left? You're getting bots, and bots will always leave you empty. It will not engage the consumer. They go right straight away to the next website because early on in the funnel, that's where you want to capture folks. Whether you have that specific new car they're looking for or not, used car, new car, service appointments. We talked about the service drive. If you have a live person who can capture that service customer, make that appointment, and then not get missed on that phone call in, right? You're going to win big. And that's how you differentiate yourself. Everyone has talked about the decline of service levels from the pandemic due to worker shortage or other reasons. My gosh, how much can you stand out when you have a live human, the first person talking to your shopper or your service customer be a live human, you stand out instantly, immediately, because people prior to the pandemic, people were very transactional. Do you have this? Do you have this? This is what I want to do. Much more relational, much more relational. How are you? How's your day going? They want that connection. So I do think it's interesting to watch how these other companies are kind of declining. And I think it's a really exciting time right now for our dealership partners. Like, let's step up our game and let's capture these shoppers out there.
Very good point. Thank you. Although that all goes out the window when you're looking for a blue F-150 and somebody's got one, right? Alan, sorry?
You just order it.
Yeah, that's a whole other, I think we need a show just about ordering.
Yeah.
Alan, how about your viewpoint on this, on the tech and how those other people are doing and versus how dealers can find a way to capture that?
I think I might have a little different perspective. I think the tech is pretty good. I don't think it's necessarily revolutionary. I think some of their processes are innovative. So for instance, and I will mention them by name just so that we all have a picture of the website. If you take Carvana, what they do really well that dealers could see an opportunity in is they will show you every flaw on the used car. That builds customer trust. That is transparency. They will give you a firm number on a trade-in. Think about the last dealership you were in when somebody called and said, "What's my trade worth?" Even though the dealer's been in business for 30 years, no possible way to estimate that over the phone. That's completely beyond the bounds of science. Yet, Carvana will give you a number. I think that their brand promise is different than how we interpret it. Sometimes we interpret it as this great technology that allows you to buy a car from home. I think the brand promise is actually, we'll sell you a car with a fixed price, may not be a low price, but you'll know you're getting a fixed price that everybody else will get. We'll guarantee it. We'll take the car back in 7 days. And our brand promise is you don't have to talk to a car dealer. And there is a segment of the market that says, I would like to do that. In fact, even though I prefer to test drive, I wish I could meet a person that I trust. My level of trust for car dealers is so low that I will take what for most people might be an inferior experience, buying a $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 car virtually sight unseen. So we have to say that this resonates with some customers. So their brand differentiation, like all differentiation, is only measured by your ability to sell at a premium price. And when you look at the prices that Carvana or some of the others get for their car, clearly their differentiation is valued by customers because they're willing to pay more. And I think that, the technology to sell a used car online, it's a pretty simple payment calculator. You don't have to worry about leases. You just have to get fees. And their technology stops pretty abruptly. It's no accident that every Carvana delivery driver is a notary public. They arrive with a bunch of papers under their arm for you to sign. And as others have mentioned, there's a lot of interaction, but that's different than being present in a dealership and feeling pressure or feeling anxiety because of that experience. Every single survey for the last, I don't know how many years, say that people love their car. They may like their salesperson, but they're not happy with the dealership experience. And I'll go back to what I said before. There's not enough transparency. There's not enough control in the process. And the tech that these guys are using is, the photographs that Carvana uses, that's awesome. The rest of it's basic stuff. It's their customer experience that they're delivering that's letting them win. Now, I have no prediction on whether Carvana is analogous to Amazon and they're going to go through some years of losses before they emerge and dominate, or whether they're going to fall off the earth. I don't know. But this is resonating with a segment of customers.
You know, something that's a great viewpoint. That's never really occurred to me. The fact that their tech isn't fancy. You know, it's not like people they're getting right into their head literally with a bot and seeing what they want to do, and then having them do that. They just post it online and go through that.
I think what they're really good at is taking pictures. They take there's no dealer website that's as good at taking pictures as Carvana is, and I'm told that by folks I know that work there that the first photo studio cost $1 million to build, and it shows. So in terms of online merchandising, just the basics, pretty pictures, good price, they're really good at that.
Alan, I worked at a dealership, and they wanted to do the whole Carvana experience, and we looked at it, and it was, I'm not going to say it was $1 million, but it was astronomical to have we weren't going to use spin car. We were just going to have the whole, 3D. And it was like, as quickly as they were turning cars, like, this doesn't make any sense. Like it will go, you're going to lose money. So, and to Carvana, like you said, they take an incredibly good job taking pictures, but it didn't make sense. We're like, we will end up losing money at this store.
Well, frankly, they're losing money right now. And the other thing about them, which doesn't have anything to do with our topic, they don't make a lot of money per car either. You know, a fella I knew came to me and said, you know, how much wants to sell his car, extra car. And it was an 11 BMW. And he said he got a phone call from the Canadian version of that, and they offered him a price for it. And I said, take it. He said, are you sure? I said, don't even think about it. At the end of that week, it was online for $600 more. And out of that $600, they have to do an inspection and make sure it's safe. So it's very interesting. Troy, I know you're not least in this question, but please, what's your opinion there? Because I think you might know a little bit about tech.
Well, the original question was, do they do tech well? And the answer is, yeah, because they're a tech company, they better. But the analogy that comes up a lot is the Apple Store or Amazon. And I really think that the analogy we need to look at for these guys is Netflix and Blockbuster. So Blockbuster is like, we're going to be around forever. We're going to do what we got to do. We have a bright store. We have a great experience. It was good in the moment. It was better than the mom and pops, right? But there's a great analogy there too, because the mom and pop video stores all got bought up by Blockbusters, and then it's like the dealer groups today. Well, Netflix, when it started, was shipping DVDs in the mail. It was an inelegant answer to a problem where people didn't want to go into a Blockbuster. But they figured it out. And I think right now, any dealers that are saying, oh, Carvana sucks, they're not going to figure it out, their customer experience is garbage. Well, they just have to solve that part, whereas the dealers have to solve all the other part. And so I think if the dealers, to Alan's point, can figure out the customer experience angle and why people want to do a car process online, no matter what part of it. And just like Noah was saying, maybe you do want to do, 8 out of 10 steps online. You still have to come into the dealership, and, automotive is very unique in that there's a real visceral response to hearing a car start for the first time or smelling leather or all of that stuff that can't be replaced with an online experience. But I really do think that Carvana's got a little bit less adapting to have to do than dealers have to do in tech, and there needs to be a meeting in both. The difference between that analogy and the Blockbuster Netflix analogy is that the dealers aren't going away. They just have to make sure that they don't lose any more market share and fix the problems that they have. But again, I think if Carvana can dial in that customer experience and that process piece, to Alan's point, it's going to be good.
I took a very interesting point from what you just said. When you took a look at the Blockbuster, I'm hearing the word you said are what dealers are saying now. No, they're not going to do that. They want to come in. They want to go through the experience. And hey, I don't know how many of us on here didn't have a great time going into a Blockbuster and walking around and pulling down all those DVDs and videos and tapes for some of you older people and think, nah, this will never go away. And now look at what we're doing. So it's an interesting morning. Ian.
Yeah, we had a metaverse show last week. If you haven't watched it, it's pretty interesting. We also had the first U.S. car dealer to actually deliver a car in the metaverse, and it's kind of interesting because he was talking about the clunkiness of it. which we're talking about a little bit today, which is kind of interesting. But there was comments about simplified and technology and new way to promote and compete business. Do you agree that the metaverse is going to be sort of the future of how we attract younger customers who prefer to buy a car with a headset versus visiting a dealership? But more importantly, the clunky nature, I think, is a lot similar to what we're seeing today, which is that we have all these bits of technology. It's really just about how can we simplify that technology piece and then also deliver the best experience. So let's go ahead, James. What do you think?
Well, I think that, like I said before, is that most digital retailing tools out there today are made for prime buyers. So if you take the younger person or the student, fresh college grad person, they're not going to be in that prime customer. So there's, 60% of customers, including the subprime customers, that are not having the ability to do what we're talking about here today, and going through an end-to-end process of purchasing a vehicle, getting financed, regardless of what your credit is, something getting presented to you. And younger people today don't want to go through the whole process of going to the dealership and experiencing something that they've never obviously done before with the 4 or 5 hours at the store. So my take is that, yes, if you can do end-to-end, online to in-store, including financing, you're going to win. If your dealership has that ability, or your tech has that ability, you can win.
Cool.
Hey, Ian, can I add something?
Of course you can, Larry. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm listening to everybody on the panel. Everybody's really smart. I'm going to jump in with Carol. Carol, I have a radical piece of technology you may all want to try. It's called a pen. If the moron that sent the video to you had just written down the air conditioning is not working and it's 700 degrees because we're in Florida, maybe something would have happened. I won't say what a good trainer I am because Ian will want to bill me for advertising. But if you don't use Larry Feldman, get off your ass in your dealerships and start training people. There's another radical thing. Tim, you'll appreciate this because Jermaine and selling, through the metaverse, these things on the side of your head, everybody, are called your ears. And if we could train our people to listen better and actually be human beings, I am the dumbest tech person on this program. Having said that, I've got 200 dealers that are paying me to find tech service people, and I run it off my iPhone. Okay, so I'm not that bad. I'm a human being. I answer my phone. I smile at people. I tell jokes. We are going to get so screwed because people are so used to pointing at a car and saying it's only 7,000 over, and if you don't want it, the lady with her clutching her purse will take it. You throw that in with floor plans now coming back at a high inflated rate. I'm licking my chops because my service, I'm going to be so busy training people who have become lunatics. But as everything you're saying is brilliant, every one of you, I'm impressed with you, but it still comes down to listening. It still comes down to writing things down. It still comes down to being human, because every damn one of you is like me. I know that's scary to be related to a demented person, but there's nobody that likes getting on the phone prompts, and after the 9th prompt, they hang up on you. You have to be a human being. We need, whether it's me or your GM, somebody needs to go back to say, be human. And we'll catch up, and Carvana will do themselves in, because it still comes down to the people business, not the robot business. That's my opinion. If anybody needs advice on where to get a pen, just call me. I have no problem. I get them at the dollar store. I'll mark them up a little bit and send them to Jeff. He'll mark it up Canadian. No problem.
I agree.
Okay, so I have to say, it looks like.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I would tell you, Larry, because the pin was missing, it cost that dealer 2 of his service advisors 40 minutes of time to go through every possible thing that could have or would have been wrong, to therefore give me and my daughter the confidence that they really checked it out, right?
Carol, it's the world we're living in, and I don't want to sound cynical or anti-people. If you've noticed, I've jumped off my screen 3 or 4 times to take calls. It's been a busy day And every person that called me, and I won't call them morons because I'll get letters from the Anti-Moron Defamation League. Every single person that called me, and I answer my phone, freaking nature. Hey, I'm calling for the job. Great. Since I'm from California to Canada to Florida, which job? And when we finally ascertain which damn job, because once again, we've trained people not to think, they hit the buttons one after the other, so they get some kind of response. Then I say, let me give you my simple email and I'll take care of everything. And not one of these people has a pen. I mean, it's frightening.
So
No, you're
I'm
right.
going to chime in here.
All right, Noah, go ahead.
So here, I love what you're saying, Larry, and here's just some things that have occurred to me just in my life. Okay, when I was born in 1985, I didn't grow up. I grew up with rotary phones. I didn't grow up with.
No, I got scars on my leg that are older than 1985.
I know, and that's my point. That's my point. I wasn't going to call out, how great you look for your age. I just want to basically just.
Wait a minute. I got Brooke and Carol on the line, and you're flirting with me. Being and Jeff, I'm doing something drastically wrong.
See, and this is actually my point, Larry. This is my point. So, I, as a 37-year-old, have already seen how different people are that are quote digital native. That was something that I got exposed to in my 20s because I was studying technology. And what did we hear? Well, the people that were born that had a phone, their behavior is different. There are people that go onto Twitch and pay $5 a month to watch someone play video games that they could watch for free, but they give them $5. When I was in Seattle in 2010, I went out to brunch with all my friends. I hadn't seen them for like 2 years. We went out to this great brunch place. I go sit down. We have to wait 5 minutes for our table. I sit down. I look around. What do all four other people do? They pull out their phone. They put their heads down. And I'm sitting there. I'm looking around, wanting to talk to people, and they're all looking at their phone. Two of the people were actually playing a game with one another. So the reality is, whether we like it or not, there are people like you, Larry, that want that. Those are my parents. They want to talk to someone. They want to talk to a living, breathing person. The reality of the situation is there's a segment of our society. I'm not going to put a number on it, but there's a segment of this population that behaves markedly different from the way they behaved when I was growing up, and certainly when you grew up. This is just
we can alter Noah. We can alter that.
I'm going to say.
Hold on. Let me throw it back at Noah. Noah, we can alter that because the generation that's, and by the way, for a 37-year-old man, you may be tech, but you got all the passion in the world. And that's what's missing from some of these tech things. But the beauty of this is, if you said to me, Larry, 17-year-olds are happier than you, they ain't. Okay, I had the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and James Brown and Otis Redding. They've got Kanye West. No wonder their brains don't work. Okay, and there's a reason that suicide rates, despair, the unhappiness that these people are willing to sit around in their underwear and put 900 things on Twitter. Screw Twitter. Well, listen. The last thing, and I'll shut up, which is hard for me to do. Just so you know, I'm not 400 years old. I'm 5'7", and I was a point guard on an urban basketball team. I don't shoot from 30. I go to the basketball. I talk about your mother. I'm from Philadelphia. If you lost, you never got on the court. My nephew said to me, Larry, Uncle Larry, let's play basketball. And my heart lit up. Oh, my God. And he pulled out a video game. I said, are you smoking weed? I put a court outside for you. So I know but I'm just telling you, if we look at these targets intelligently and realize how can you imagine, everybody on this program's articulate. You really are, every one of you. Can you imagine not being able to articulate your feelings, your emotions? They can't spell or add, it's not because of the damn iPhone. So I see this not as a problem, but as an opportunity. Because when you do open them up, when you do listen to their little silly petty worlds, it's easy to open them up.
Absolutely.
I would tell you that there's also a difference between male and female. I have 2 daughters, 2 sons. And
I'm a Republican. I'm aware that male and women. And by the way, you should get your daughter on the phone. It sounds like she would pair it up with the F-bombs.
She would. The 28 and the 21-year-old recently both bought cars, and they both wanted to go into the dealership. They were willing to go to several dealerships.
You know why?
I could very much see I could very much see my sons, oh, that's kind of cool. Let me try this, whether it works or not. But I could see them going down. And I guess that's the thing, is there is going to be that segment of market. I agree. There's going to be that segment. But should you spend 90% of your time building for the 5%, or allocate your time and your resources differently?
Carol, you do it all. You do it all because you're all car people. And let me tell you something. I averaged 31 and a half cars a month for 11 years and bought the dealership. Back then you had the same kind of excuses, non-digital. You had the guy that no matter what you charged him, he had to chop you. You had the guys that were shopping. It's just shifted a little bit. You can't ignore. Listen. And last thing, I'm sorry, you guys got me excited. What used to drive me berserk is, as you've all figured, I'm good at communicating. And I used to pick up and drop off my customers' cars, so I was unskateable. You couldn't steal my customer. And I would go back every week, my head blew off my shoulders. It's lucky I have ears. And I'd say, if this guy's car is not done by 3 o'clock, he can't pick up his son at school, let me know. I'll lend him a car and pick him up. You know how many times I call him at 10 to 3 and say, I guess we're good to go. You didn't call me. Oh, I haven't gotten to it yet. We're back to the same thing. I don't care how sophisticated, it's still junk in, junk out. You have to communicate with people and make it clear. Because if that guy had called your daughter and said, first of all, I'm so sorry your car broke down. It's really hot. We're going to fix it. We're going to drive. You would have hung up and lost your mind. You would have said how nice they are. She'll be telling that story when she's 90 years old about how she got stranded and these idiots sent her the wrong video. I just don't think it's that hard to communicate.
Agreed.
All right, Ian and Jeff, was that disruptive enough? They send me a check every week to destabilize.
So, Alan, I think you had some thoughts.
Well, first of all, I think you found your first spin-off, The Larry Show. It's one of the most awesome things I've seen in a long time, and I love it.
Alan, feel free to reach out and connect with me. If you reach out to me on LinkedIn or call me, I always answer my phone. You look like a pretty cool guy too. Why don't we go out and get in some trouble while blame it on Noah?
As if either one of us needs more trouble, but yes.
Sounds like my friend.
So let's take the Apple Store. By the way, there's nothing easier to sell online than an iPhone. Nothing easier. Everybody knows they work. Everybody wants one. You know what the price is. Couldn't be easier. Yet Apple spent $71 billion to build 510 retail stores because they know that's where brand is built. They know that those personal interactions that Larry talked about, that's where the brand is built. The Apple training manual is very hard to get a hold of. It's a secret because it's so good. It's confidential information. If you search around on the internet, you can find snippets of it. But the Apple employees are as well trained as any retail employees out there. They combine that with technology. Go to a Verizon store and say, I want to buy an iPhone 12. They're happy to sell it to you, and they're happy to point you to the place at the counter where you can go pay for that. Usually a bit of a line, there's usually a bit of a kerfuffle with your credit card. You go to an Apple store, and those highly trained employees, every one of them has a cash register in their pocket. They'll pull it out, and they'll sell it to you instantly. So they've got the transparency and the speed. And so this, and I think that James would agree, he's in the same category of business we are, is that this idea that we can put a cash register in the hand of every well-trained employee in the store. Nobody wants to spend $50,000 and wait in the lounge for 2 hours to talk to the finance manager. So this is a little radical. I know there are people that are in the F&I business, but you cannot have a lower NPS score than as a finance manager. Not because you're not a nice person, not because you're not ethical, but nobody wants to wait 2 hours to give you their money, meet a new person, and then be told that Mercedes-Benz does not understand how to paint cars, and for $1,200 we can fix that problem for you. And it just defies modern retailing. And so we need changes in process. We need better training of employees. We need empathy. We need transparency. And then we need the technology to empower that. If you like me, you're going to like me even more if I can get you out of here in 20 minutes driving your new car.
Hey, Alan, I'm going to be in Edmonton. I don't know what part of Canada you're in. I'm going to be in Edmonton doing a big seminar that Tuesday. I think it's the 17th, the 16th, whatever it is. You guys, any of you guys are near and you want to really have some fun, check us out. Or if anybody wants to connect, I'd really love to pick all your brains.
Thanks.
Tony, I'll even talk to your parole officer.
James, you had some thoughts?
Like I said, the technology to be able to do everything there, I think the financing is just really key for the other customers base that we're franchise stores are ignoring. And I think that it's not that they're ignoring them when they're in store, it's ignoring them when they first come to any contact with the store. And that's usually their website. And every single time that you go, if you can go to any digital retailing tool that's out there, they're all built for prime customers. That's just the way it's always been. Gather a lead. And if you're a subprime customer, yes, we'll collect your information. But I mean, I can't help you. I got to talk to you on the phone. I got to go. They really don't, in my experience, and Alan might have a different take on this. In my experience, when I talk to a franchise store, if I mention anything about subprime customers, they just kind of throw their hands up because the F&I department doesn't really want to deal with subprime customers when they could just sell the same vehicle to a prime customer. But I always say that you can replace any car, maybe not in this day and age right now, but you can never replace a customer. So why would you discount that customer just because they got a 630 credit score? And you can't do an instant deal with them right then and there. Well, there's technology, there's companies out there, Intent, that do that. So we can do it end to end.
Troy, you hadn't said anything in a while.
Are you sure? I mean, just listening to all this, hard to keep up. No, you know what? At the end of the day, you can't replace the people part of it at all. But there are people who want to buy online, and there are people who want to buy in store, and everywhere in between, the whole gamut. We're also talking about the state of where things are now. But the reality is, it's moving very quickly and starting the hockey stick in the direction of the online piece. Where we're going to be in 5 years or 10 years is dramatically different. And I've said this a million times. The technology that we're using today didn't all exist. Like Zoom wasn't around 4 years ago. So 4 or 5 years from now, for us to sit there and say that we're going to predict where Carvana is going to be, it's probably not going to be a problem because there's going to be 5 other disruptors that we didn't see coming, that some kid in his garage is working on right now, that are going to be in our face. And that's really where it's going to be. I think the most success people are going to have is taking care of the customers they have today, but with a mindful eye on future-proofing tomorrow, because where, all the companies, especially the, James and Noah, I don't know where your companies were 5 years ago. They might have looked dramatically different. I know mine did. We came from a payroll company called ADP. So 5 years from now, who knows where this thing, and who knows this whole podcast is probably going to be on the metaverse by then.
Absolutely. Jeff, and since it's the time, did you want to ask any other questions?
We're I love it when Larry comes on because it gets us into a whole different view of things. And we've gone from this topic of tech to another customer service thing. And like every show we have, things have been quite exciting. But I want you to fill in the blank and see if we can do this quickly. If dealers don't have a better blank, are they doomed to get left behind? James, I'll ask you that one.
It's kind of what I've been saying the whole show. If they don't have a better online to in-store process, they're going to miss out with their competitors because that's where it's going. That's where it needs to be.
Perfect. Thank you, Brooke.
I'd say better mindset with the streamline of everything. So whether that's the in-store process, but just I'd say process in general, you've got to streamline everything.
Good point that we make that makes it comes up good. Noah.
It's a knowledge. A dealer needs to have better digital knowledge to go with the sales knowledge, because like it or not, things are going digital and have been digital. And whether it's someone you hire in-house or a team or a trusted third party, you need to have that knowledge in order to navigate the waters ahead. And if not, you probably will be left behind.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because one thing that seemed to come up in our conversations here was that Carvana's got the great digital process going, and then something falls apart there. So thank you. Alan, I have to say, one thing I'm taking away from this is the comment that all of those guys, those people, the notary publics on delivery. That's very interesting. That makes a great amount of sense. I don't know how many salespeople I know delivered a car to somebody's house and said, sign here, sign here, sign here, see you later, I got a plane to catch. So what do you think if dealers don't have a better, they're gonna get left behind? Alan?
I think a better way to price cars. One of the things we haven't touched on today is that there is no such thing as digital retail or e-commerce if you don't have fixed price. It does not exist anywhere in the world. If you had to negotiate with Amazon, you wouldn't buy anything. It is the enemy of volume. It's the enemy of transparency digitally. So if you've got fake prices, you've got fake e-commerce, you've got fake digital retail. And until dealers learn about dynamic pricing or yield pricing so that the car is on the money every single day of the year, it's going to be very difficult for digital to mean anything. Who would commit online to buy a car if it was well known there's a different price in the store?
That's a very good point. Thank you. Carol?
I would say culture, because culture is what people do when you're not in the room. And the culture's got to be, number one, think from the end consumer, your customer experience, whether you're in fixed ops or front side of the business, or internally, your internal consumers from department to department. Think from their perspective. The other part, important, critical part of culture, especially in a technological age, is that people feel free and empowered to bring solutions. So if I'm thinking from a consumer perspective and I see the pitfalls and I see where we could stand out or better ourselves, I need to feel empowered that I read an article, I saw a new product on the market, to bring that to my leader and to have that conversation. I always make a statement that I'm the COO, please feel free to tell me where I'm wrong. Please feel free to tell me what I'm not thinking about. What perspective am I missing? I expect that from our team. And if dealers can kind of embrace that entire culture, then your tech experts, as we talked about, who can vet these new technology tools, they're amongst your team. They see what happened every day. They know what's going to best fit. And then talk about adoption rate and understanding how to use it. It's through the roof.
Very good point too. It's not just one answer. Everybody's got a totally different answer, and somebody doesn't say, well, if you've got to get this AI and this, etc. We're talking bigger than that, much bigger than that. Troy, what do you think?
Everyone took all the good ones, so I'm going to say, if dealers don't have a good eye to adaptability, move with your market, move with the technology. It's that whole adage of, it's not the strongest in survival, it's the most adaptive to change. The change is happening at an incredibly rapid pace. And I think that's part of the reason why we're seeing a lot of legacy multi-generational dealers selling out. It's not just because the money's good, it's because there's a lot of adaptability that needs to take place, and it's hard.
That's a good point. Thank you. One thing I have to say to Larry, Alan is located in Bozeman, Montana, which is a lot closer to Edmonton than many, many places in Canada. But hey, there ain't a more American place than Montana. Ian, I'll leave it to you to close off.
Yeah, great show. I really like the tie between the metaverse and technology and people. I agree that, you need to figure out the technology, but really it's about the people at the end of the day and how they communicate with multi-generations. I went out to brunch or breakfast with my niece who was in town with her husband, and they're in their 20s, and they communicate virtually the entire time with text message, even to book a time to meet with me. So the phone is an alien device for them, even though they use it for text messaging. So I think you really got to be where that person is. And even though the phone may be your preferred mode of communication, you got to think about what the preferred mode of communication is for that person you're speaking to. Whether it's right or wrong, it's just the way it is. And thanks for watching. And thanks for listening.
Interesting point of that you just mentioned about how different generations communicate. Noah, Larry, Ian, etc. My daughter, who's I'm scared to admit is 30, we were chatting one day. We go out to eat a lot, and we're paying, and the server says, "Would you like a copy of the receipt?" And I said, "Definitely." So they gave it to me, and my daughter says, "And that's the difference in my generation and yours. We don't ask for a copy of the receipt, but we got a digital version."
Thanks very much. Everyone have a great day. Great week.
Thank you. Pleasure. It was a pleasure to contribute and meet everyone. Thank you.
And of course, the same goes if you enjoyed the experience. Tell everybody. If you didn't, I hope you did.
Larry, a check's in the mail.
Thank you.
Awesome. Nice meeting everybody. Please reach out to connect.
Thanks.